as the relationship between the European Union and the Kingdom of Eswatini, now from infrastructure to innovation, agriculture to access to justice. The EU has been a constant investing over 6 billion emalangeni since 1968. Now, there's been a new face leading that mission in the kingdom, His Excellency Carsten Mecklenburg, who has taken the reins as the EU ambassador to Eswatini. And he has wasted no time in hitting the ground running. Now, ahead of Europe Day 2025 celebrations, we want to speak to the man in the diplomatic driving seat about his vision, the EU's priorities, and the road ahead for Eswatini's EU cooperation. Ambassador Mecklenburg, welcome to the program. A very good morning to you.
A very good morning. This very nice sunny day.
Now, we saw you on, it has been, 7 months now, but I think it has been only 2 weeks since the credentials with His Majesty the King. I think my first question to you would be, beginning with the obvious, first impressions matter. Arriving in Eswatini 7 months ago, what struck you first about Eswatini and its people?
Thank you very much. What struck me really was two things: the beauty of the country. Obviously, I did inform myself before arriving, but once you are here, looking at the mountains, looking at your countryside, it's just impressive. It's really beautiful. Yeah. The climate is pleasant. I spent my last 4 years in West Africa in a landlocked country at an average 40 degrees. So it's nice to be also in a place where you can breathe, which reminds me a bit of my climate from my home northern Germany. A lot of rain, a lot of beautiful sunshine. The other thing that struck me was also the people. They're extremely kind, very proud. So that's something also with whomever I meet, be it government officials, be it people in the villages, but also business people. Everybody is very proud of what he himself is doing, but also of the country with its very particular cultural features. It's a kingdom that makes it different, but also the pride of the specific heritage of governance, of where the country comes from. So that's something that impressed me really. And then also how people interact with each other, with a sense of respect. So I see it, if I go through obviously Baban, Manzini, Mazapa, it's impressively well developed. Then you see, if you go in the more remote areas, it's a bit more difficult. People struggle a bit more, so there's discrepancies. But nevertheless, you still see that sense of respect, how people interact with each other.
It's quite beautiful because, some people from the outside looking in often hear about how kind and, how, just warm the people of the Kingdom of Eswatini are. And a lot of them seem to doubt it until they get here. And I'm happy that you have received your fair share in this 7 months of, this warmth and kindness, but also you enjoying the climate and everything, the weather. An average of 40 degrees Celsius is crazy. I don't know how you managed to live through that in Burkina Faso. But, you've obviously hit the ground running in the Kingdom of Eswatini. We've already seen you from the Bushfire Festival launch to, Press Freedom Day. We've seen, some of the sentiments that you've shared there. How has the diplomatic engine warmed up so far? Has it been a smooth gear shift into the Eswatini landscape or a bumpy ride?
No, it has been very smooth. It's made very easy by the very open and constructive attitude from whomever I meet in the authorities, cabinet ministers in the government, the Prime Minister. And yes, you're referring my credentials. I met His Majesty about 2 weeks ago, I believe. This is how diplomacy goes. Once you are only when you presents the formal letter of credentials, then you are the ambassador extraordinary plenipotentiary of the country you represent. For me, it's the European Union. But the government made it very easy for me to act, nevertheless, from day one of when I arrived in September. So I was able to meet members of government. I was able to also participate in public events, except those where His Majesty participates. You referred to recently the Press Freedom Day, indeed, the launch of the bushfire schools. But from day one, when I arrived in September, I remember one of the first events was a renewable energy event. An energy forum that we co-organized with local organizations, with Minister Reichenberg participating at the time. And that's indeed one of the challenges for the country, the finding an alternative new source of energy, so not to be dependent on electricity imports. Because if you want to develop the economy, you need internet and electricity.
Absolutely.
And this is something we address together.
Yeah, let's talk about Europe Day. You know, we have very limited time here on our interview. A celebration of unity, a celebration of peace, a celebration of purpose. And I think that's a very important word there. But for many, it's just another date on the calendar. And, you know, if someone at home right now listening, okay, Europe Day, what's that about? Let's strip it down for them. You know, what exactly are we commemorating, and how is the EU mission in Eswatini planning to mark it?
Well, for us, Europe Day is the 9th of May. So it has different angles to it. But otherwise, as you say, it's just another day in the calendar. 9th of May, what we are referring to is the 9th of May 1950. It was 5 years after the end of the Second World War, which was a major devastating event for Europe and the world. And it was the then French foreign minister, Robert Schuman, who came out with an idea to get away from the logic of the past, where countries fight over resources, where countries seek their own advantage against their neighbors.
Right.
So to seek to win over the others, to get your own advantage at the detriment of the others. And the idea of Robert Schuman was, why not build a new Europe based on solidarity and understand the logic that we are all together and we can thrive together. There is a logic of building wealth on the back of solidarity.
Right, right.
So that everybody wins. So his idea was to bring together the resources at the time, steel and coal, where Germany and France fought over like for 100 years. There were wars before. The First World War was one of them. So to say, why not reunite those industry in what was called then, later on when it was created, the European Coal and Steel Community. It was, so he proposed in a speech on the 9th of May to construct a new Europe based on solidarity, mutual respect and peace. And with the support of our partners, the first 6 founding members of the European Union launched this idea. It grew further over the years. We are now 27 member states. And I think the message is that we can see now, looking back to those 75 years, it was a success story. So that it is possible to build wealth of nations where everybody wins, where you respect each other, where you build your wealth based on rules, based on governance, based on democracy and peace. It doesn't need to be a zero-sum game. We hear that nowadays sometimes, where some countries say, oh, if he wins, I lose.
Yeah.
Our logic is the opposite, and that's what we celebrate on the 9th of May. How we celebrate it here, I mean, in the end, it's, as you say, it's just another day in the calendar. But I will assemble tomorrow members of government, our partners, members of the diplomatic community, in a modest event to celebrate. Absolutely. So to be together, to exchange ideas, to look back on the history of our own development, but also the partnership with Eswatini, because that's also important. That's why we are here.
It's beautiful. And I think, you know, morality, humanity, and inclusive development sitting at the premise of all of that is really commendable. And looking forward to, you know, learning about what happens tomorrow and what you speak about, you know, convening all these important stakeholders. But now, since 1968, the EU has not just been a partner to the Kingdom of Eswatini, but if you like, an architect of progress. You just spoke about, you know, assisting the kingdom in, you know, the renewable energy. We've seen a lot of projects, you know, from youth development to, you know, alleviating the youth unemployment, curbing, you know, that gap that is there. A lot of gaps that you are helping Eswatini sort of bridge. I want to understand, you know, from your own perspective, what has been the real impact, as well as where has the EU moved the needle most significantly, or where it wants to move it more significantly right now.
Okay. Well, looking back, I think what's important for us, and it has been important in all our partner countries where we are partners for development, that we develop our action in the country together with the authorities. So we don't come in as a spaceship from abroad to say we know what's best, this is what we want to do. No, we talk to government, we see what's the needs, what's the priorities, how do we fit into government programs. And in that sense, I think some of the things that we have done in the last more than 50 years here have been very successful. What comes to my mind is creating access to free and quality primary education.
Yes.
We have now, the country has achieved, thanks to our massive support to that, a rate of, I think, 97% of access to primary education, not only free, but also high quality. We have been very active in the area of supporting, building up the sugar industry, and not only supporting the big players, but in particular looking into how small-scale farmers can benefit from the development.
Yes.
Creating irrigation schemes, supporting, bringing communities together. So in addition to sugar also, I'm thinking of horticulture, fruit, vegetable growers.
Yes.
So some of the smallholder farmers have really benefited. And it struck me also when I met His Majesty that he was saying when he now tours the country, that in many communities he got that feedback to say, oh yeah, we were able to do this thanks to the support by the European Union.
Yes.
And that makes us proud, obviously. Otherwise, we have been, I said, in green energy. We are still active in that. We are supporting the government and business in terms of improving the business environment, helping also startup enterprises. It was an important project that's still running with the International Trade Center to support small and medium-sized enterprises, startups, in really kickstarting their business, finding a way into the market, finding a way possibly also to export. And that's something we have been doing over the past years. Now, if you ask about what's the priority for our current and future periods, we have defined, again, together with the government, the important issue of youth unemployment. So it's clearly something, so if you manage to create an improved business environment, and if you look into what's the future economy in the country, you also want to match it with the skills of the young people, so that people find a job, that they can make the country grow. So technical and vocational education and training is something that is really important for us in the future. We put it under the label human capital, develop human capital. What is at the same time important for us is that it's not only supporting the able and capable, but that we also don't forget the vulnerable groups.
Right.
So that's social inclusion, that we look into also how to support vulnerable groups, how to support, for example, also women empowerment, so that women can be part of the economy, that the young generation is supported, but also people with disabilities, for example, that they have a way to earn their life. So this is the two blocks, human capital development and social inclusion, together with and aligned with government priorities, is what we look into the years to come.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Ambassador. Human capital development, very important, but also importantly, making it inclusive. I think that is very important. Clear priorities, bold partnerships, and a mission already in motion. Ambassador Carsten Mecklenburg is not just a representative of Europe, but he's actively shaping its role in Eswatini's future, and you've heard it from him here. Tomorrow, Europe Day. We hope that goes well, too. Thank you for being with us on the program today. This has been the Kusile Breakfast Show, the Thursday